Parents around the state are trying to figure out a new batch of test results from public schools. In Boston, the figures show signs of improvement as well as increasing signs of trouble. And because the tests have been revamped, scores are down generally. The mixed message is one more reason for an organization that helps parents choose from a limited supply of high-quality schools. To explain how that works is the executive director of Boston School Finder, Latoya Gayle. Thank you very much for being with us, Latoya.
Hi, thank you.
I want to start with what that means. What is a high-quality school?
So the truth of that is that it means different things to different people. So we've actually polled parents and we've surveyed parents, and I think everyone thinks academics are important, and then there's these other set of things that people find important, like is the school safe to them? What extracurriculars are there? What time the school starts? Does it have before or after school care? How close it is to your house or not? There's a wide variety.
Well,
Yeah.
I know one thing that people have been sort of conditioned to look at are these test scores.
Absolutely.
What should people focus on the most, do you think?
You know what? That's really a personal decision. For some parents, those test scores mean a lot to them. And I think that's the set of parents who might say, I don't have the resources to supplement in things for my child. So those test scores might mean a lot to them, and they want to know how a school is doing on a state assessment. Then there are other parents who say, it's important to me the environment that my child is learning in. And so that may mean how many kids are in that classroom? What's the diversity of the student body? What's the diversity of the teaching body? How close is it to my house? Is my kid gonna have to be on a bus for a long time, or can I walk around the corner? There's a variety of different things that mean high quality to people, but I think it's safe to assume that everybody's meeting a certain academic standard.
And of course, here in Boston, I would say roughly half the students are either from immigrant families or they might have some sort of a learning disability.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that changes the complexion.
That absolutely changes that. So in Boston, like you said, we have like half of our kids are on IEPs if they have a special need, or English is not their first language. So that process for those families looks a little different than for a standard kid going and picking out a school. I myself have a child who has a special need, so I do understand that process. And you look for different things for your kid. And we have a lot of inclusion schools here in Boston, which means that our kids with disabilities and our typical students are educated in the same space, in the same school. And then you might want a sub-separate classroom for your child, like you want something that's very focused and separate for your child to meet that need.
Well, I think a lot of parents, and I think I'm one of them,
Yeah.
if I had to do it over again, I'd do it differently.
Absolutely.
But when you were shopping,
Absolutely.
what did you learn from that you suggested?
Absolutely. That's part of why this site exists. I have my youngest is 4 and my oldest is 16. And so when I had to do it all over again for my 4-year-old, I said, wait a second, this hasn't changed much. And how can I make this easier for parents? Because I remember like sitting for like hours obsessively culling through data that I had to figure out how to understand. And I wanted to say, how can I make this easy for parents who don't have that type of time or resource on their hand to figure out where they want their child to go?
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Latoya Gayle from the Boston School Finder. Latoya, one thing that we hear about periodically on the show over the years is that somebody comes up with this new way of teaching children, and it's working really wonderfully, and it's in the grapevine, but a lot of people don't hear that. Can you help them with that kind of thing?
Yeah, so on our site, we have all the information like that about our schools, and we also have resources that we've curated and put together to help family make other decisions for their children, like what type of after-school programs are there, what organizations are in schools, if you have a child with a special need, what does that mean, and what are your choices because of that for your child? If you are a family who's experiencing homelessness, your choice basket will look different. What does that mean for your family? So there's lots of things to choose from.
What about after school programs? Because when I was young, it was just sort of almost recreational. But today it's quite different, isn't it?
Yeah, there's lots of things for after school. There are recreational things. There are academic things. There's tutoring. some schools have tutoring for kids. If you have a child who has a special need, you might need some additional services that could take place after school, or you might just want to play after school. Depends on your family, but it's important that families have the information so they can choose what environment is best for their kid.
Because one of the things is that here we are. We just got these test results.
Yeah.
The school year just began, and I guess. What's the timetable? Because I guess the new enrollment kicks in, in January or something like that?
So BPS enrollment starts in January, but Metco starts in October, and charters open up in November, and then our private and our parochial schools, they start opening up also in the fall. But in Boston, there's over 200 schools for families to choose from, and we just want families to know about all of those options that are available to their families. BPS, of course, will always serve most of our students. And so we do a lot of helping families understand timelines and processes and what do they need to register and what's available to them.
I wonder if you could take me back to what got your organization started, because one of the things I noticed about it, which looks pretty good actually, is that you have representatives from the district schools and charter schools and other schools. You're all working together, I guess.
Yeah. It's always important, to work together. We don't believe you can do anything alone. And so BPS gives us a lot of information on their schools. The charters help us with their schools. The Catholic, the Archdiocese gives us information on their schools, and independent schools do as well. Because Boston is a diverse city, and that is also translated into our education landscape. So there's lots of choices all around, and we just want every family, regardless of what their status is, what their race is, where they live, what their socioeconomic status is, to understand all the options that are available to them in school.
I do want to ask you one thing about the latest scores, at least a general question, because they've revamped the test, and that usually drives the scores down. So if people look at these figures, they're going to be kind of depressed probably.
Yeah, they will be, but I think they're kind of consistent. There's not much change, I would say, in the city of Boston from where we were before to where we are now with those tests. And I think just like you said, working together, we need to figure out a way to accelerate progress for our schools and for our kids.
We should mention that if parents want to get some assistance sifting and wading through all of this, what's the best way to track down your website?
Oh, you can find us at bostonschoolfinder.org.
Great. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Latoya Gayle from Boston School Finder.
Thank you.
We'll have more news in just a moment.